What's really interesting, Michael, it has never changed. The mission was always to build $1 million bookkeeping firm.
Wow.
That's what we wanted to do.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer. Today's episode launches part one of a special four-part series with returning guest Teresa Slack. It's an honest and inspiring look at the challenges, growth, and breakthroughs behind a successful bookkeeping business that eventually sells for $1 million. In the opening episode, Teresa takes us back to the early days of launching a virtual firm in 2014, driving hours to give free seminars and growing fast till the cracks started to show. On paper, the business looked like a win. Behind the scenes, not so much. Let's find out more right now. Our returning guest is a prominent Canadian e-commerce bookkeeping expert, co-founder of Financly Bookkeeping Solutions, and a trainer for accounting professionals specializing in complex Shopify and Amazon accounting, value pricing, and business systems for accounting firms. Teresa Slack, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Michael. It's nice to be here today.
It's great to have you, and it's I'm excited about this episode. It's a long time coming, we will say. And a lot of people listening right now are running good bookkeeping businesses on paper, but behind the scenes, I know and suspect, and through the years have spoken to many, many bookkeepers. And behind the scenes, they're exhausted, stressed, and unsure if what they've built is actually sustainable. Your story matters because you've lived both sides of that, the uncertainty and the success. And I'd love for listeners to hear the truth of what that journey actually looked like. So I'd love to take our listener back to the moment before things started to change in your business, and maybe just a little bit of that, set up the scene for where you were in your business and a bit of that journey.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Connie, my sister, and I started Financely in September of 2014. And when we launched, we decided that it would be a virtual bookkeeping firm. So we signed on to QuickBooks Online right at the beginning when it was just brand new and lots of people were having trouble with it. But what we did is Connie set up an office at her house. I set up an office at my house. We used all the amazing cloud tools and we started to get ourselves out there. We went to networking events. We actually partnered with Intuit to deliver financial literacy seminars every other Friday in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And we went to an incubator for female entrepreneurs and we taught them the basics. And between that and the networking events that we started to go to, business did start to roll in, and we went from having 5 clients when we launched to 30 bookkeeping clients. We had 100 tax clients, and I think about 40 or so consulting clients. And at that point, Connie and I were starting to feel overwhelmed, like between the two of us, just trying to do all of that work. So we did what I think everybody does: is you go and hire some people. And we did. We hired 3 part-time bookkeepers. We set their hourly rate of pay. And we actually thought, okay, we're good. We now have the people. We've got the clients rolling in. And that's when things started to really go sideways, Michael. Mostly because we didn't really know what we were doing. We certainly knew how to do bookkeeping. Absolutely. Connie and I both, at the starting, we probably had about 30, 35 years experience, but we didn't really have any experience at running a bookkeeping firm and what it takes to build and grow a profitable business. So back then, when we hired those 3 people and we set their hourly rate of pay, and we thought everything was great, but at that point, I remember back then, actually, when we started, we were charging $18 an hour for our time. And that's because when we launched, Connie had these 5 little bookkeeping clients that she was doing on the side outside of her day job. And that's what she was charging. So when we launched, that's what we did. But when we went out and started doing all the networking and that, we did slowly raise our price. So by the time we hired our staff, we were charging about $35 per hour, which is still crazy. But that's where we were at. And we started trying to train our people. And because we didn't have any money at the $35 an hour, Connie and I were not getting paid. We had only enough money to pay the staff and pay the overhead. There was nothing. So, Michael, I think for the first 2 to 3 years, Connie and I didn't bring home any income. And that was not good. Not good for our families, not good for our stress. But what we did is we started trying to train them. And this is actually when I met you.
And let's maybe pause there for a second and dig a little bit into this.
Yeah.
So also, you were coming down to Toronto, you're running these events. Tell us where you lived, you and your sister. So you said you and your sister built this. You didn't live in Toronto. You actually lived.
We lived about an hour and a half outside of Toronto at that time. Now we're way further away than that. But at that time,
I think if you looked it up in the dictionary, it's called the sticks. You lived in the sticks. You were,
we lived in the
middle of nowhere. Not quite.
We did.
But your sister does.
Oh, Connie does. Connie definitely does.
She lives like in a cottage, kind of like in the wilderness,
on a lake.
Right? And you weren't too far from that, not quite, but you were far away. So you're driving an hour and a half to come into Toronto and you're finding clients. I think it's important part of the story because many people think, oh, I have to live in the big center or I have to. In this day and age, you can live anywhere on the planet and run a firm like this. So there's geographically, I have heard that over the years. It's like, well, I live in a small town, so I can't attract clients from other places. And I think, many people get that today with the world's opened up so much. But still, we hear it all the time, thinking that there's limitations based on where you live. And not only were you doing all of the work, you were putting a lot of energy and work and time into coming down and running these events, essentially for not a lot of money.
Well, for no money.
For no money.
They were free.
It helped you find clients.
It did.
Great.
Yeah.
But the foundation of what you were building there actually wasn't adding up. So I think that's a key point to know. And it, I think, shows that you were committed to it and you put a lot of energy into it and hard work and drove an hour and a half to go and do these seminars. And so it's an interesting part of the story. Now, when you started the business, did you and your sister have like a vision for what you might build? Or was it like, hey, what was that initial vision when you first started out?
What's really interesting, Michael, it has never changed. The mission was always to build $1 million bookkeeping firm.
Wow.
That's what we wanted to do. That was our goal, was to grow a large bookkeeping firm with clients and staff across Canada. That's what we wanted to do.
Wow.
And that's kind of what we are now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, with punchline, he is coming, but I think we'll have that in the title of the show. But you've sold your business for $1 million and you achieved that, which is absolutely remarkable. But when you're going through this, before you met myself, it's where we kind of paused, like, what was it? You have this vision. I'm going to build $1 million bookkeeping business and you haven't been paid for 2 or 3 years. How did that land for you? Were you like, I'm a failure, I'm a like this, I'm doing something wrong. Some people can be totally stopped. They would have quit and just ended. But I'd love to know how that showed up for you, and also how it showed up for Connie, because you're both different. You're sisters, but you're different
Yeah,
people.
of course we are. Yeah, I think that there was a lot of tears. There was a lot of stress, a lot of concern that I don't think we can do it. And that's when we really started thinking, okay, I went into it thinking, no problem. I've done this kind of work for other people before, never for myself. And, but watching the struggles that we had, I came to the realization that we needed help. We needed a coach, we needed some training, we needed something, but we were so broke, Michael, that's where the fear came in. It's like, I have no money. I can't afford to hire a coach. I can't afford to buy this program. I can't afford to do this. And then you get into this lack mindset, this mindset of, you can't do it, you're broke. And that's all that's going through your head. And I think Connie and I really had to fight that, because we both were in that mode of being like, we can't afford it, we can't afford anything, we can't, and we were scared, and we were, there were times, Michael, that Connie and I were pulling money out of our savings to make payroll for the staff, not for us. And it was scary. And we really did get to a point where we asked ourselves, should we just shut this thing down? Should we just go get jobs? Because this is hard and this is scary, and it required a lot of growth and a lot of belief, that kind of where they say, fake it till you make it. It's like we had to kind of convince ourselves that, yeah, we got this. We can do this. We can, we can succeed at what we want to do. I wouldn't say back then that we actually believed that we were going to succeed in building what we did succeed, but that was always the goal, was something big. We wanted a team, we wanted all the things. And, for Connie, I think there was even more fear. I think I came in with a little bit less, just because of my work experience and the kinds of things that I had been doing before starting Financely compared to what Connie had been doing. And, so I think for Connie, there was even more fear. There was more worry and,
You had worked for significant businesses. You saw how things go up, they go down. You saw the
yeah,
generation of business,
yeah,
and that, hey, there's something, this is possible. But it's
yeah,
like, we just don't know how to make it possible. And so you were
that's
sitting
exactly.
there. She was sitting over and like, this isn't going to work. Did you fight? Did you have breakdown in your relationship at all? Because you're a family business in a way.
Yeah,
Not in a way, you're family business.
we
That
are.
that in itself is a kettle of fish.
It is. And my family is not great with confrontation. So there was no big screaming matches and things like that. That's just our family. It never has been. But was there a lot of tears and a lot of hurt and a lot of disagreements on how to do things? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I remember us putting in this, because we would get into these arguments. So we decided that what we would do is we would say, Connie, I'm putting my business hat on and we're going to have a conversation. Or Connie would
Wonderful.
say, Terry, I'm putting my business hat on. And then that was sort of our cue that this was not a sister conversation. This was a business. And that just sort of, it helped us to try it. So we
Yeah,
were
for
trying
sure.
not to take things personally. And, it's my sister, she's being mean. It's like, no, this is a business conversation and it is about moving the business forward. And that kind of helped us. But yeah, there were arguments, there were hurt feelings that, we had to work through that. But I think the one thing we did really well was keep the lines of communication open, talk, express how we're feeling. Don't be afraid to say, that did not land well for me. That hurt me. That was not the way to approach it. And, I think we were pretty good at that. But yeah, we're sisters and sisters argue.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think you handled it
Sort of
very
like,
well. And,
yeah,
that
thank you.
says a lot about both of you. Being
Yeah.
able to communicate well solves a
Hmm.
lot of issues in the world, quite frankly, let alone
Yeah.
in a situation like this. What an amazing conversation so far. In part two, Teresa will walk us through the moment she and her sister Connie realized something had to change and the courageous decisions that followed. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. For resources and links, visit thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.